Miki, you're up. So while you get sorted over here, I'll introduce you. So Miki set up Golden Goose 10 years ago. She's overseen creative campaigns many of you will have seen, including launching the global dating site beautifulpeople.com and recycling Glastonbury tents for Rag Wrap. But today she's going to be talking to us about creating the world's largest photo of the royal family for the Sea Containers building. And as you've already guessed, it was one of the 3 UK entries that won a Gold Lion at 2013, which David actually judged. So over to you to talk it through.
Thanks very much, Selina. So this is my Exhibit A. This is actually our board that we entered with for the Cannes Lion. And I'm sure that while you're looking at it, you're thinking, like me, is that it? I mean, it looks really simple. And actually, when we were making it and looking at examples of previous winners who were largely creative agencies, there weren't examples where I could see that there was a PR blueprint to follow. I mean, creative agencies would drop in their TV campaigns still into this kind of board, you know, some sort of big paid-for elements where the visuals really popped. And I was scratching my head and thinking, you know, our screen grabs of our broadcast content, whilst showing incredible coverage that we generated on TV globally, didn't quite look great put on the board. And so we just went with one of the most impressive photographs that we were able to get from Hello, actually, of the royal barge going past the giant picture. And then we basically relied on what we do best, which is coverage. I mean, that's what sets PR campaigns apart, perhaps, from creative agency campaigns, where at the end of the day, you know, if your idea is so strong and your execution is so brilliant that you generate incredible coverage, then put that on the board. You know, not in a sort of, you know, the old sort of way you might have done as an account exec when you made a little montage board for client, but in this simple, clear, structured way. We just really cleverly chose what we would feature. And I think as well, you know, when you enter awards, there are always categories of information that judges look for. They wanted to hear the challenge, the idea, and the results. And so rather than just choosing your own way of communicating that, we just put it in 3 sentences for them, clearly marked the way they were asking for. So, I mean, if I was going to say to you how to win an award like the Cannes Lion, it starts, of course, with a really simple idea, I think. I mean, you can see from that board, it's just so simple to understand, but it really wasn't simple to execute. I mean, it was incredibly complicated. And even making that board took, you know, so many hours of thought of what would go into it and different changes. But as you can see, I mean, the idea was simply cover that building with that picture. And then for the execution, you know, it is all about, I always think that if you can see your idea on a printed page, and this goes against, obviously, the trend of social media, but if you can see it on a printed page with a photograph and your story, then it's a big enough and good enough idea to work on every level, socially, you know, broadcast. And then, of course, you've got to have your moving content, because I think to win an award like the Cannes Lion, as we've said this morning already, you've got to have moving content. I mean, content is what it's all about. And you've got to think about what the hashtag is going to be and what people are going to share on social media. So, you know, once you've got all those 3 boxes ticked, then I think you've got something to work with, to actually have something worthy to enter the awards with. And then it comes down to meticulous attention to the awards entry and what they're looking for. And it took hours and hours to enter the Cannes Lion, like literally hours every day for weeks, to just reassess what we were entering, getting it right, making sure we were editing down to the word count. Actually, it won't let you enter more than the word count when you go online and you start entering the different elements of your campaign. So this is my second exhibit, really. This is just the first snapshot of our actual entry form that we made. So, I mean, even looking at it now, it looks a bit wordy, but we just wanted to explain why we did what we did. Because, again, it's a little bit random if you think about it. We needed to try and bring it back to why it was relevant to the building, why the company that were, you know, our client, the property company, wanted this, what the message was for the South Bank. But as you can see, it's really brief and to the point. This is like towards the end of the document. They ask for documented results. And I think when you get into results, if you've had a truly brilliant campaign, rather than writing paragraphs of information, you just list it, you know. And when you present judges with a list with statistics that really, you know, they're real, they're tangible, they're factual, then again, you're really almost there. And one thing that judges have said that they really like as well is an example of triumph over adversity. This is how you can introduce a bit of drama. And so there is a section that talks where they ask you for your execution, and in my box out just here in the green box, as part of execution, we just made sure we mentioned a little challenge we had to overcome, which was nerve-wracking at the time. I mean, with the wind scale being what it was on the day, we didn't know that we could send the abseiler down for the final shots, or even drop the final panel. And this is while we had AP, PA, Getty, Reuters, Sky, all standing there with us. So, you know, it was really nail-biting. But, you know, put it in. It adds to the drama, but just put it in as a sentence. I mean, the thing as well, you know, I think we would never have got a look in with what we did for the sea containers if we couldn't have backed up, again, how it wasn't just a lovely, pretty idea, this royal family photograph on the Thames during the Jubilee, but how it really was relevant for the building. And so we worked with Meltwater to make sure that they analysed all of our coverage, and we were able to give the statistic in our entry that 92.45% of the coverage did mention sea containers, and they've got a little word cloud of the key messages that came out across all the coverage. And so that could really justify that we hadn't just done an arbitrary stunt, that it really was relevant. We worked with Go Viral, I'm sure that a lot of you do, I mean, they're incredible. And they made sure that our video content was seen by over 40,000 viewers. And again, we used their analysis to embed it into our campaign summary. And then working with Opinion Matters, we did a survey before I even thought about entering it for the Cannes Lion. Just actually, when we were writing it up for PR Week as a case study, we commissioned a survey so we could ask people again if it made business owners, particularly those in London, want to hear more about sea containers. Because if it hadn't done that, then for all of this glorious publicity, it wouldn't have been a winning campaign. I think, you know, a lot of campaigns that do incredibly well have some sort of social change element, or some kind of, you know, some sort of, it's done good for the nation in some way. But with ours, it was just this, it was blatant publicity. But if we couldn't link it back to reaching the people that the building really cared about reaching, business owners who might want to take space in the building, then, you know, for all of the broadcast coverage we generated, and print, it kind of meant nothing. So, I mean, this survey, which cost about £800, was what helped us win that award completely. And in fact, when we were entering the Lion, and there is a question which asks you for your Net Promoter Score, and I'd never heard of this term before, and I'd spent hours and hours, you know, doing the entry, and then thought I was nearly finished, and then saw this question and thought, oh my God, we've not done this. What is this? And I phoned friends in marketing and asked them what it was. I Googled it, and it was just really, but it was just quite simply the likelihood of people to promote the product off the back of what you've done. I mean, usually, like, would they buy the product if it's a creative campaign for some kind of brand? And so, luckily for us, we'd had this question that we'd put into our survey months before that, about how interested they'd be to hear more about the development. And then we put that in as our Net Promoter Score and explained that was as close as we could get to a Net Promoter Score. So just, you know, to sum up, I think an original and simple idea that is so easy to understand is really how you can win an award. It shouldn't take a lot of explaining. And even though it could be so complicated to execute, if you can bring it together in a really simple way, then that's the kind of thing people are looking for. I mean, with us, we did manage to piggyback on something that was globally interesting, you know, the Jubilee, of course. And when you have events like that, when you have an idea where you think, oh yeah, not only is this a great idea, but this will make it tie in with a global media event, then then it's an incredible thing to be involved with. But also make sure that your print media and social media is all completely thought of, that you've executed every element, and that you've got in-depth post-campaign evaluation, facts, statistics, and that your entry is really brief. And I think sometimes when you enter awards and you're writing the written side of the entry, sometimes when I've judged awards and you see that people do go in for long paragraphs and they're trying to get emotion behind what they do, because they think that if they can't put it in writing, the judge isn't going to get just why they did these things so well, or how the emotional connections they were trying to make with their readers or viewers. But that's where the video comes into it. You should be really brief in your entry. Go for lists and bullet points and facts and stats, because the video content is where you can really bring back the emotion. I'll show you mine in a second. But again, with the Lion, when I was looking at other entries and thinking, God, how do we enter a video? We're a PR agency. How do we enter a video that competes with creative agencies' videos, where they've done paid-for campaigns and got world-class TV and video cameras filming, often celebrities? How do we compete? And then I thought, well, we've got this incredible coverage. Let's just edit together the broadcast coverage. And I think as PR people, if you can generate incredible broadcast coverage, that is your video. Make sure that you write clever captions, that you choose the right emotive soundtrack. But we didn't need to go and pay for any extra clever content. We had it. I'll show you.
On the other side of the river, the folk in sea containers they got rather carried away as they unfurled a giant family portrait
of the Queen's Silver Jubilee celebrations.
The country is already in the grips of Jubilee fever, and even the portraits are larger than life, much larger than life. In this case, there's one hanging on the banks of the River Thames. It's bigger than a football field.
The millions of people watching this in Britain and around the world.
And those are the boats representing the Commonwealth.
1/3 of the world's population.
Yeah, they're all represented on the river today.
Everybody wants to get a fantastic view. One of the largest pictures ever created on the side of the Sea Containers building.
I was down on the water yesterday, and I have to say that picture is enormous. Enormous.
It's 110 meters by 70 meters. It weighs 2 tons.
I have never seen a spectacle quite like this in my life. To celebrate the Diamond Jubilee of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II.
The whole building face. The largest photograph ever of the royal family.
They're sort of running to 26, 27 pace, something like that, which is fast for some.
Fantastic. How do you feel? Do you feel quite emotional still when you see that?
Yeah, I really do. Yeah, I love that video.
And David, you were saying in the judging room there was consensus. So you had your 20 judges. There were some arguments, but there was pretty much consensus about this one.
I'd say one early. I mean, for all the reasons you said, it was a simple idea. It was an obvious PR idea. I think you clinched it for most of the judges with the results slide. So the video, you're right, gets people emotionally engaged. But anybody who might have thought it's a little too much of a stunt for me when they saw the results, but actually stunts do work and can work quite well. The other thing, and I think this is, we don't always have this privilege, but this work, was recognizable around the world. So every judge in the room knew about this before they'd seen the actual entry, and that does help if you can key off a truly global moment with a competition like that. It was really well done.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Miki. Well, listen, you'll be able to ask Miki some questions at the end.